Have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift? Not because you said anything, but because of who you are when you're silent, because of what you see and can't unsee. There's a certain kind of discomfort that follows people who notice too much. They don't shout, they don't argue, but somehow their very presence threatens the room. They notice the contradictions in what others believe. They pick up on subtle manipulations no one else dares to name. They ask questions no one wants answered. And then, slowly, something happens. People stop inviting them to speak. They're told they're too intense, that they overthink everything, that they're making things complicated, not because they're wrong, but because they're right in ways people aren't ready to confront. Most of society doesn't hate intelligence. It celebrates it. It rewards it in tech, in finance, in science. What it fears is perception, the kind of mind that doesn't just gather knowledge, but sees through the illusion. Because when you see clearly, you threaten comfort, you question stories, you disturb the peace that was built on pretending. And so, the world doesn't try to kill you. It slowly pushes you out. It paints you as arrogant, negative, or too much. It blames you for what you revealed. But what if the real reason they resist you isn't because you're cruel or because you're wrong, but because you refuse to play along? What if they don't hate you for being smart? They hate you for what you notice. And if that's true, then maybe the loneliness you feel isn't a weakness. Maybe it's proof that your eyes are open and you're seeing a world most people are too afraid to look at. Most people don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want stability. They want the world to make just enough sense to get through the day without asking questions that might unravel everything. Because truth, in its rawest form, is disruptive. It threatens identity. It threatens trust. It threatens the carefully constructed house of meaning most people live inside their whole lives. So what do? They cling to illusion, not consciously, not maliciously, but out of psychological survival. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, the mental stress we feel when a truth contradicts something we already believe. Instead of adjusting the belief, most people adjust the truth to avoid discomfort. They reject it, mock it, silence it, because accepting it would mean admitting they've been wrong, that their worldview, their story, was built on sand. And that's terrifying. In the 1950s, Solomon Asch ran a famous experiment. He showed how people would knowingly lie just to fit in with the group, even when the truth was obvious, even when it was right in front of them, because truth wasn't the goal. Belonging was. This is why people defend their ideologies, even when the facts collapse, why they protect their beliefs, even when they cause suffering, why they'll attack the one who speaks up, instead of listening. Because the moment you see clearly, you become a threat, not to their logic, but to their emotional safety. And this is what Plato warned about 2,400 years ago in the Allegory of the Cave. In the story, a group of prisoners are chained inside a dark cave. Since birth, they see only shadows on the wall, illusions, and come to believe that's all there is. But one prisoner escapes. He sees the real world, the sun, the sky, the truth. He returns to the cave to tell the others. But instead of celebrating him, they try to kill him. Why? Because the truth he brings destroys their world. It doesn't just offer new facts, it reveals that their entire reality was a lie. And that's not just scary, it's unbearable. Modern thinkers like Erich Fromm, in Escape from Freedom, said something even darker. Most people don't actually want freedom. They want to feel safe in their chains. And anyone who tries to free them is met with fear, then anger, then rejection. This is why those who notice contradictions, who question the narrative, who see through the game, are not seen as insightful. They're seen as dangerous, because they aren't just thinking differently. They're threatening the entire ecosystem of shared illusion. It's not your intelligence that gets you rejected. It's your refusal to pretend, your refusal to unsee what you've seen. You become the person who breaks the spell. And in a world addicted to comfort, the truth is the ultimate of. But what most people will never admit is this: they don't hate you. They hate the disruption your perception creates. They hate the way your words peel back their justifications. They hate the mirror you hold up to their unconscious life. You didn't start a war. You just refused to laugh. And that in the end was enough. Throughout history, a strange pattern repeats itself. There is always someone who notices too much, someone who sees cracks forming in what others call truth, someone who dares to say, this isn't what it looks like. And almost every time, they're punished for it. Not because they were wrong, not because they were dangerous, but because they were right, in a way the world wasn't ready to hear. Socrates, he didn't lead a rebellion. He didn't wage war. He just asked uncomfortable questions, and for that, he was sentenced to death. Why? Because he disturbed the illusion. He challenged the gods of Athens, the rituals of the powerful, the beliefs people clung to for identity. He made people think, and to a system built on obedience that was intolerable. Then came Galileo, the man who pointed a telescope at the stars and said, maybe the Earth isn't the center of the universe after all. A simple observation, a truth backed by science. But the church, the dominant structure of his time, saw something else, a threat to their authority, to their worldview, to the very structure of belief that kept society in place. So they silenced him, not because his math was flawed, but because his vision was. Centuries later, it happened again. Malcolm X stood in front of a country still haunted by its own reflection and said, you've been lied to. Your enemy isn't where you think it is. He saw past the political theater, past the fake smiles of polite oppression, and he called it what it was. But clarity makes people uncomfortable, so they labeled him radical, dangerous, divisive, and they killed him. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about this same pattern. He saw through morality, through religion, through the collective lies people tell themselves to feel noble. And for that he was ridiculed, dismissed, even declared mad. Hannah Arendt watched the machinery of totalitarianism rise in Germany and warned evil isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just blind obedience. She saw the danger in ordinary people doing what they're told, without thinking, and for that, she was exiled by those who should have listened. This isn't about genius. It's not about IQ. It's about perception. The deeper someone sees, the more they become a threat to those still pretending. Because the seer doesn't just see facts. They see through narratives, through performances, through social games, through moral camouflage. And that kind of seeing makes people nervous because it strips away their ability to hide. In today's world, it's no different. We still exile those who notice too much, not with death sentences, but with silence, with smirks, with social exile, with algorithms that bury their voice. The whistleblower who reveals corruption, the friend who names what everyone else avoids, the artist who paints what we try not to see, the quiet kid in the classroom who dares to say, this doesn't make sense. All of them pay a price, not because they cause chaos, but because they disturb the illusion of order. And if you're one of them, if you've ever been dismissed for seeing what others ignore, understand this, it's not your intelligence they fear, it's your clarity, it's your refusal to play dumb, to stay quiet, to look away. You don't fit in because you were never meant to disappear into the illusion. And the truth is, people don't cast you out because you're broken. They cast you out because you're awake. There's a reason people don't just disagree with truth tellers. They often resent them, and not because they're wrong, but because they're mirrors. Mirrors that reflect everything others have spent their lives trying not to see. The discomfort, the contradiction, the fear that maybe the story they've believed isn't as solid as they thought. This isn't new. Psychologists have understood this for decades. Sigmund Freud called it projection, when we deny something in ourselves and instead project it onto others. Instead of admitting our insecurity, we label someone else arrogant. Instead of facing our confusion, we mock someone else's clarity. Instead of acknowledging our guilt, we punish those who reflect it. And when this projection becomes collective, a group begins to scapegoat the one who sees clearly. Suddenly the outcast becomes the problem, not because they are, but because they're visible proof that something is broken. The ancient ritual of scapegoating wasn't just about finding someone to blame, it was about purging discomfort, taking the unwanted truth and putting it on someone's back, so the group could stay intact. And this same pattern plays out today. That's why you might find yourself subtly pushed out of conversations, why people change the subject when you speak, why your silence makes others more anxious than their noise, because you don't fit the script, and that makes you unpredictable, uncontrollable, uncomfortable. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject because they don't align with the image we want to present. But the shadow doesn't disappear, it festers in the unconscious, and the moment someone brings it to light, the attack begins. Not because the seer is cruel, but because they reveal what's been buried. So when you speak a difficult truth, when you question the narrative, when you refuse to laugh along with what's not funny, you become a threat to the group's emotional safety. Not just intellectually, but existential. You expose the cracks in the mask. And to those who built their identity around that mask, you're not just inconvenient, you're dangerous. This is why smart, perceptive people who read between the lines, who notice what isn't said, who don't play along just to be liked, often feel alone in rooms full of people. They carry the weight of awareness. They feel the invisible walls of rejection, even when no one says a word, because their presence forces others to feel what they're avoiding. And it doesn't matter if you're kind, or calm, or sincere. What matters is that you've seen something they haven't, and once that's felt, they need to push you away to protect the illusion. This isn't about logic, it's about emotional defense. It's the subconscious choosing comfort over truth. And so you become the container, the vessel for everything they don't want to own. You're not rejected because you're wrong. You're rejected because you're right in a way they're not ready for. And the deeper your clarity, the more threatening your presence becomes. But here's the paradox. The more clearly you see, the lonelier it feels. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've refused to become what the group needed you to be. Blind, compliant, silent. So if you've ever been rejected for your perception, understand this. It was never really about you. It was about what you reflected, what you revealed, what you refused to hide. At a certain point, the intelligent mind learns a painful lesson. Truth isn't always welcome. Insight isn't always rewarded. Clarity doesn't always lead to connection. So what do? They shrink, they nod, they play along. Not because they've lost their mind, but because they've learned what happens when you don't. They smile through stupidity. They laugh at jokes that aren't funny. They simplify their words, dull their insight, and hold back their real thoughts. Not to deceive, but to survive. This is what psychologists might call social camouflage, the act of hiding your true thoughts to avoid rejection, conflict, or emotional violence. It's not cowardice, it's self-preservation, because over time, the consequences of not pretending add up. You lose jobs, you lose friends, you get labeled difficult, intense, or too much. So you learn the mask, you master small talk, you give surface-level smiles and safe opinions, and people seem to like you more. But here's the cost. You stop liking yourself, because while the world accepts the version of you that's agreeable and muted, you know it's not real. You become a stranger to your own mind. You second-guess your instincts. You start to wonder, maybe I am too much. Maybe it's easier to just be quiet forever. And that's how it begins. The slow erosion of authenticity. Not in one dramatic moment, but through 1,000 tiny betrayals of self. One fake laugh, one withheld truth, one more day pretending not to notice what's breaking. Until one day, you don't even know what your real voice sounds like. And what's worse, even when you finally do speak, no one hears you, because they've only ever met the version of you that played along, the one who hid, the one who made their world feel comfortable. So when you finally reveal what you really think, it's not just rejected, it's punished. That's the paradox. You become invisible by being too real, and you become exhausted by being too fake. And so many brilliant, perceptive minds live in this quiet limbo, seen but not known, included but not understood. Because the truth is, the world doesn't want what they really have to offer. It just wants them to smile, to stay quiet, to keep the peace, to blend in. But inside, there's a growing pressure, a resentment that builds with every false agreement, a sense of grief, not for what was lost, but for what was never allowed to be. And if you feel that, if you've ever found yourself dumbing down to be liked, holding back just to stay safe, or pretending you don't see what's clearly broken, then know this: you are not weak, you are not alone, you are not wrong for seeing clearly. You're just living in a world that's terrified of perception, a world that prefers masks over mirrors. And the question isn't whether the world will ever make space for your real self, but whether you, because the longer you hide, the harder it becomes to return. And maybe, just maybe, that silence you've learned to wear isn't protection anymore. It's a prison. There's a cost to clarity. The more you see, the fewer people you can talk to. The deeper your awareness, the lonelier the room becomes. Because perception changes everything. You can't unsee hypocrisy once you've recognized it. You can't pretend things make sense once you've traced the cracks. And you can't go back to comfort once you've tasted truth, even if it's bitter. This is the paradox of the perceptive mind. You wake up in a world that rewards sleep. So while others bond over distractions, you're noticing patterns. While others celebrate the surface, you're tracing what's underneath. And slowly, it starts to separate you. Not because you want it to, but because truth, by its nature, isolates. And here's where the real danger begins. When you're the only one who sees, you start to wonder if something's wrong with you. You doubt, you shrink, you ache for someone, anyone, who doesn't flinch at your honesty. But what you're experiencing isn't madness, it's the price of awareness. And it's a price every awakened soul has faced before you. Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live for can dare almost anyhow." And this is your why. You see, not to be superior, but because truth matters, clarity matters, integrity matters, not to the crowd, not to the system, but to you. And when the world feels hostile or cold, that why becomes your anchor. Because you're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to live without illusion, to stand firm when others fold, to tell the truth even when your voice shakes. This isn't about martyrdom. It's not about victimhood. It's about responsibility. Because the truth is, if everyone could see what you see, they would, but they can't, not yet. So you walk alone, not as punishment, but as preparation. Clarity isolates you until it empowers you, because eventually you stop needing validation. You stop looking for permission. You stop apologizing for seeing what's real. And in that stillness, you find a different kind of strength. A quiet heroism, a radical self-respect, a sacred refusal to lie to yourself, even when everyone else does. So yes, there's a price to seeing. You'll lose comfort, you'll lose belonging, you'll lose the illusion of ease. But what you gain is truth, agency, freedom. You stop being shaped by what others need you to be, and you start becoming who you actually are. Not perfect, not safe, but awake. And in a world that sleeps through its own suffering, that's not a flaw, it's a call. To see clearly in a world that teaches blindness is not a curse, it's a rebellion. When you refuse to conform, when you stop pretending to agree, when you look at the world without flinching, you become something dangerous. Not because of what you say, not because of what you do, but because of what you see. And in a system built on denial, distraction, and performance, perception becomes resistance. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you're defying the script. Every time you speak the thing no one once said, you're disturbing the illusion. You don't need to hold a sign. You don't need to shout. You don't need to fix the whole world. You just need to stop pretending you don't see it. That quiet decision to stay awake, to hold on to your clarity, even when it costs you comfort. That's the revolution. Because in a room full of masks, a single honest face changes everything. No, it won't make you popular. It won't protect you. It might even make you more alone. But it will make you free. And that freedom, not the fake kind sold to you in ads, not the performative kind shaped by algorithms, but the real kind, the kind that lives in silence, that walks alone, that knows and still dares. That kind of freedom is rare. And it's yours. You don't owe anyone an explanation for what you see. You don't need their approval. You don't need their applause. You just need to remember, you are not broken. You are not too much. You are not alone. You are awake. And in a world that profits off your sleep, That's the most radical thing you can be. So don't close your eyes again just to belong. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't dim your vision to keep the peace. You weren't meant to disappear. You were meant to witness. And even if no one thanks you, even if no one understands, you carry something most people will never hold: clarity. And in that, there is power, there is rebellion, and there is peace.